Hey everyone. I just wanted to talk on this subject of relationships today because I feel like it's really important and it's not something that's really talked about enough with the different types of relationships that there are and what it means for you in your evolutionary process. There's just, there's so many different layers and levels of relationships, and sometimes people can get certain types of relationships confused for someone being their divine partner. And, so I just kind of wanted to touch on each kind. Um, and as I stated in the title, the main ones I'm talking about today are karmic relationships, soulmate relationships, twin flames, narcissist and empath, chemical relationships, and then divine partnership relationships. So they're not really, I don't think they're in any particular order. I would say divine partnership is probably the grand finale for all of those relationships. But and maybe soulmate relationships are just kind of sprinkled in between all of the other types of relationships. So we'll start with just like something like karmic relationships. And really, if you're in a karmic relationship, it's usually because you and that person have some sort of unresolved past experiences or some sort of spiritual growth that you're working on together. If you believe in past lives, there might be something that was just kind of unresolved between the two of you. And you can have karmic relationships and love relationships. You can have it with friends. You can have it with family, um, bosses, whatever, teachers. And it doesn't always have to be like a love relationship, but you're both there to kind of, learn and grow and maybe teach each other something. Um, and sometimes karmic teachers can be very painful, but they're there to kind of free you, from something. Um, and they're drawn together, the people in these karmic relationships are drawn together to try and, resolve some unfinished business or some unhealed parts of themselves. It can be challenging, it can be turbulent, and it can be, just really difficult sometimes, because you can have a sense of like feeling stuck. Maybe you're going, in these same cycles over and over with this person and just not getting anywhere. And there's just this consistent pattern of conflict and unresolved issues. It can be short lived, they can be really significant in your life and creating change within you and the patterns that you have in relationships, or just that you have with yourself, the relationship with yourself. They can be really intense, they can be emotionally charged, but it's really just there for you both to grow in some way and to really push you to kind of confront your traumas, your insecurities, any emotional baggage either of you are coming into the relationship with that's unhealed. But the ultimate goal is self-awareness and, liberation from all those old patterns. Um, so, it's just, you have to ask yourself, like, what relationship style am I in right now? And what is this teaching me? And is this something that I want to stay in forever? Have I gotten the lesson? Um, and have I had enough? Or is this something that we're both resolving together that we can then move this into a different type of relationship? But typically those karmic relationships, because of the conflicts and the drama and stuff, like they just, um, sometimes they don't last. And that doesn't mean, I have plenty of friends that have been married for years and they worked through a lot of karmic stuff together and they're finally happy because they worked through the challenges, but sometimes they're just there to teach you something, and then you have to spend some time alone and grow and evolve from that. But then the next type of relationship would be soulmate relationships. And this is a lot more gentle. It's more loving. You have a deep kind of mutual understanding and unconditional love for one another. It's where you have a sense of like, I've known this person before, and you have this familiarity and love, like instant love for this person. And again, this can be confused as divine partnership. And that's not necessarily always the case. It doesn't even have to be like a romantic partner. Like you can have friends or family members, children or mentors that are soulmates, that you just, love them no matter what, and it just feels like a meeting of like kindred spirits, and you journey together, even if it's only for a short while, or maybe for the rest of your life. You have soulmates and different types of, maybe platonic love as well. But there's you feel like you've known them for each other. There's like mutual support and growth together. You feel comfortable around them. They understand you. And so the challenges are usually more constructive, instead of destructive and, major conflict. And again, it's all about personal growth and mutual growth. But, the bond between soulmates is often, unbreakable. It's something that you, even if you're far away from them or haven't seen them in years, like there's still that sweet bond between the two of you. So, and then the next relationship, the twin flame dynamic. And so, twin flames are rough, and I still see these like YouTube channels of people that say they're twin flames and they're still together. And, twin flames are just, oh man, that is a rough, rough journey, but it's a little step beyond the karmic relationships, because you feel like they're your soulmate and you feel this instant bond to each other, but then you have all this like heavy like drama between the two of you, of the runner and the chaser, and the one who's the giver and the one who's just like, doesn't even want to have anything to do with you, but then they're so attracted to you, so it's very confusing. But again, it's about spiritual awakening, as all relationships are, and it's like this concept that you're two halves of the same soul, that were separated at the beginning of time. And it can feel like such an intense connection, like almost to the point of you feel addicted to this person. Like you can't stop thinking about them, and it's deeply painful. It's deeply transformative, because it brings up all of your strengths, your weaknesses. They reflect everything that you fear, in a partner and in yourself, but also everything you want in a partner. And so there's this like intense attraction, but then they do all these things that just trigger you on every level of your being, and maybe reject you, or, it's like the flame, it's the fire. You're just kind of walking through the fire of their relationship. There can be, periods of separation. It can be really intense emotional highs and lows, and a lot of like emotional hardship through this whole process. And again, you kind of just mirror each other. So like wherever you have fears or doubts about yourself or love or being loved, relationships, they're going to be that person that you fear. They're going to reflect all your strengths and weaknesses. But there's like this intense emotional attraction, that just keeps you coming back, until you finally, get to this place of, this runner chaser dynamic gets so exhausting that, you get tired of it, and you have to say, like, I'm chasing after this person and they just keep running away from me, or I'm running and I don't want this person chasing me anymore. So I just, and so there's just, it can be like, almost like a borderline, like chemical relationship, because there's just this intense addiction to this person. You're just so convinced that they're the one for you, and you're so convinced that you're meant to be together and that they're your soulmate partner, yet they're running away from you. So that just tells you right there, like, this is not your soulmate partner, or your divine partner, because your divine partner wouldn't run away from you like that, And so, but it is an evolutionary process and a necessary relationship to experience, to get to that level of being a divine partner, because through the twin flame dynamic, you learn to love yourself, and to not need someone to be the other half of you, to not need to chase after somebody who's clearly not chasing you back. It teaches you self-love. It teaches you self-worth. It teaches you to free yourself from the addictive patterns of relationships, of that codependency, of needing to be loved, needing to be liked, and, you know, someone being the other half of your soul to make you feel purposeful, meaningful, and loved. You know, it's like breaking that pattern of those addictive relationships that just aren't meant to be. You know, they're not, I mean, they're meant to serve your evolutionary process, but, you know, it's not like you're meant to be with that person forever. You know, that's not your divine partnership, because that's not how divine partnership or divine partner would act, you know, and you wouldn't be feeling all of these horrible feelings of them triggering you on every level, you know, but it's something that needs to happen so that you can heal yourself and balance all of those parts of you that are out of harmony with self-love and being a divine partner yourself, you know, because you can't, you know, be in a divine partnership if you're still chasing after someone who clearly doesn't, you know, want to give you the time of day or just triggers you on every level, because that's just not honoring yourself. And a divine partner would honor themselves and love themselves and not need to be in a relationship like that. Like, they just wouldn't. They would just love themselves enough not to engage or pursue something like that. You know, and so, you know, the twin flames, sometimes they just keep breaking apart and coming back together and breaking apart and coming back together because they still haven't resolved that energy, you know. But at some point it's just like an addiction. You just have to say to yourself, like, I cannot be around this person. I can't talk to this person. I can't engage casually with this person, because it becomes, you know, it's like if you've ever been a drug addict or something, that you can't be in that environment, because then that it just triggers all that addictive energy again, and wanting of this person that just doesn't serve you. But at some point, you know, you can be freed of it if you know, like most people who give over addictions, you just don't want it anymore. Like, you love yourself enough that you don't want it anymore. You want to love yourself and be healthy. And that becomes more important to you than being in this explosive relationship, you know. You know, it's just there to help you confront your deepest fears and insecurities and all your emotional wounds, and just balance and harmonize that within you. You know, and then there's the narcissist and the empath relationship, which is even more suffering. You know, it's similar to the twin flame dynamic in that there's one person who, you know, is kind of like the empath, who's always giving a lot of themselves and overdoing, and, you know, just trying to do everything they can to get this person to accept them and love them, because they feel, you know, they want to prove their worth to this person. And then the narcissist will be like, oh, this is a dream come true for me. I can control, manipulate this person to do my bidding, because my approval and acceptance with them is like the food that they need. And so I'll just keep giving them little breadcrumbs that they will follow this trail and do whatever I want them to do. And then I can let them do all the work, and I can place the blame on them for everything, because they'll take it. Because if I can blame them, then I can also free them from that hurt by giving them just a little breadcrumb of affection and, you know, some sort of approval or acceptance and stuff. And so it's like this carrot that they dangle in front of you, and they just keep dangling this carrot and like jerking it away the closer you get to, and just get a little taste of that, you know, the highs, you know, in this relationship and the good times together. And then they kind of take it away and rip the rug out from underneath you, because when you're in a weakened state and you're, you know, you're hurt, then they can control you and manipulate you a little bit better. They can knock down your self-esteem, you know. And so that relationship is really just about self-worth, you know, and self-esteem for the empath to, you know, be freed from needing to prove their worth to anyone, because you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. You don't need to repeatedly, you know, prove to someone or do things for someone to get them to love you. Like, that's what the narcissistic abusive relationship is about, is that they're trying to show you at what to what extent will you go to great lengths to get someone to love you before you love yourself first, you know. You know, and it's a very toxic relationship. It's draining. You know, the empath person is very attuned to other people's emotions, and they find themselves entangled with a narcissist because who craves attention and validation while offering, the narcissist offers little in return, because the empath's desire is to help heal people, to help people feel better, and the narcissist exploits that, and it just leads to a very imbalanced and destructive relationship. Because as an empath, and this is something that, a lot of people who have like ADD or ADHD are very empathic people. They can tune into frequencies, and that ADHD comes from, abusive parents, or being around, verbally abusive parents, or just, some level of toxicity where, they have a heightened sense of awareness because they're used to, like, just tuning into the vibe of the room of like, oh, am I going to get in trouble, or am I going to get yelled at or abused or something because, so-and-so is upset, or, something went wrong. And, so they're very highly attuned to the vibe of the room. And so when they meet someone who they're attracted to, and then they feel the vibe of, discontent in the other person, the empath thinks, what did I do? What did I do wrong? I need to fix this. I need to do something to show them that I'm a great person. I need to do something to, make them feel better about me, or make them love me more, because that's how they were taught as a child, to try and do something to prevent the upset, of the parent or whoever it was, that was in their lives. And so it's just, again, that narcissistic and empath relationship is there to kind of free that person from needing to prove their value and worth, and to continually take the blame for other people's emotions, but also to recognize that just because somebody feels some certain type of way doesn't have anything to do with you at all. It has to do with them and the unhealed wounds within them, because a narcissist is just it's just a baby who is fighting back against the world. It's an unhealed, wounded child who is fighting back against the world, and who is so protective of themselves that they can never be wrong, and they could never show any weakness, because that would mean certain death for them. And so that, somebody abused them at some point, to a point where they decided one day they will never let that happen again. And so they just became this like overpowering, overbearing, toxic, alpha person that, just can't be vulnerable, because vulnerability allows them to have weak spots where somebody's going to stab them in the heart again, and so they put up this armor of strength and toughness while never healing that wounded child within inside. So both sides, are a wounded child, and they just handle things differently. And so there's just a lot of like projection and manipulation, the empath ends up feeling drained and confused because, the narcissist behavior is just so irrational, and it can be addictive, because it's a trauma bond. They're both traumatized in different ways of children. And so they trigger each other, so again, just kind of tap into like, what level of relationship are you working through right now? And like, what is it that you need to do to get more in harmony with that divine partnership part of yourself, and self-love. But then there's another relationship type. It's chemical relationships. And those can be fun because it's just pure physical attraction, pleasure. It's kind of short term. But often people again can confuse this chemical attraction as love, because they're driven by a lot of biological factors of, the body's response to hormones and neurotransmitters and dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin and adrenaline, and so you get this rush of excitement and passion that's triggered by the brain's reward system. So if you're an unhappy person and then you meet this chemical attraction, you get addicted to this chemical of oxytocin, of pleasure, of dopamine from this person. And, then you can become obsessed with that person. But then again, it's not really meant to be love. because it's coming from, fulfilling maybe a, a hole in your soul. And then you just go out and seek out these pleasures because you're just trying to fill that void. Um, but again, it's based on like a physical bond and chemistry and, strong bodily connection. It's very short term, and there's very little emotional connection, but there's a lot of euphoria and highs and lows that can come when you go through that cycle of that chemical bond, because it's kind of rooted in your brain and your nervous system, and those, high dopamine responses and have like crashes that follow afterwards. But it's a lot of like emotional intensity without depth. And, you can feel like, it might not be as deep or as long lasting, as like a soulmate relationship or a divine partnership. So it's really linked into like your neurochemistry, and you could read more about like, the pleasure chemical, the love hormone that you have during, physical body connection with oxytocin and serotonin, for like a mood stabilizer, and adrenaline, which is just kind of gives you like that butterflies. You get that tingling along your spine. You're like, oh, that must mean, I feel it, like, I have this feeling, and and you mistake that for like true love, So, it can be very exhilarating and exciting, but it's just not built on anything solid, like a solid friendship or partnership that grows into that beautiful chemical connection of love that's, built from true bonding experience. So it can be really kind of confusing along with some other relationship types. And then the next and final grand finale of relationships is the divine partnership, and this is where you two share like a spiritual mission and a mutual elevation in your souls, having had gone through, many of those types of relationships and healed yourself, through those journeys. So wherever you are, and whatever type of relationship you're in, don't shame yourself or feel like, oh gosh, I've got so far to go, and I'm so far down the chain. It's like, this is exactly where you need to be, and you could stay in a soulmate relationship for a while, and that's fine. For whatever it is that you need at that moment. Maybe you don't need or want anything beyond that. Or you could stay in the karmic relationship for a while because you're still healing a part of yourself that you just haven't gotten the lesson yet, and that's fine, But with that awareness, you can just keep asking yourself, like, what is this teaching me? And what do I need to know or learn to evolve from the situation that I'm in currently? And how can I, love myself more and become a better person? Because the divine partnership is, it's sacred union, and it goes beyond personal love and involves more of a shared higher purpose. These relationships are often seen as like destined by the universe. Like, this person's like part of your destiny. And they're both working together as like this beautiful humanitarian mission for the world, and sharing that, like, that mission of like something greater than themselves, for the world. And it's not just about personal fulfillment, but also about like making a positive impact on the world, because you're both whole people, and you show up as like, I'm not bringing any baggage with me. And so now we can just, I'm a whole loving being and you're a whole loving being. And we can create from those places of magic and harmony and love together, and just enjoy life and enjoy creating and enjoy, not having to deal with so much of the emotional drama. That doesn't mean that there won't be conflicts or miscommunications or misunderstandings. It just means that now you have the tools of like self-love, where you're not going to project onto your partner, and that you have the tools of like how to ask for what you need, and to not put demands placed upon your partner because you have some sense of insecurity about something, because you're secure and you're whole. And so, you have mutual respect and unconditional love, unconditional, you don't put limitations on people. or expectations on them, and you're both striving to be your best selves and working on yourself and owning your whatever challenges that you're working with, and not making it about the other person. You have a lot more trust. You are both conscious communicators, and you have emotional intelligence, on each side, so that you can work together more effortlessly. And you do definitely feel meant to be, not just, for your own happiness, but again, for a great cause that you're working on together. And there's like this type of, it's like your love is like this force that you embody that creates this like transformative force, not just for you or your partnership, but for the people around you as well. It's like you're creating alchemy for the world through your love together. Like you're just this like magic duo, power couple that's just like creating beautiful things in the world together. So, yeah, so those are, the ones that at least I have experience with and knowledge of. And I'm sure there's many more nuances and maybe some more subtle types of relationships out there. But I just wanted to share this so that you can kind of, do a vibe check of like, how is your relationship going? And what types of relationships have you experienced, and where are you in your evolutionary process, and where do you want to go? So if you're still attracting karmic relationships and having the same issues, then, it might be time to kind of look at like what is within you that still needs to be resolved and healed. Or, if you're not finding soulmate or divine partnership relationship, then be like, well, do I even know what my soul purpose is? Like, what is the authentic expression of my soul, and am I doing it? If you're not doing it, then you're not living in your highest purpose. You're not fully being you. So how could your divine partner find you if you're not being your fullest expression of yourself? So it's just some things to kind of grow with. There's no shame or blame in that, or self-criticism. It's just all part of the growth process. So yeah, so I just wanted to share this with you. Feel free to comment below, and if you need any assistance or support, feel free to reach out to me for an intuitive healing session, and we can find out exactly what's blocking you and work together on getting you into that place of harmony with love within yourself and your fullest expression towards the world. Okay, so many blessings to all of you, and may you have a life filled with love and oneness and harmony today. Be blessed.